Gale Crater, Mars. August 6th, 2012. The Curiosity lands on the Martian surface to evaluate the suitability of the planet for human exploration. The 1-ton rover will find signs of surface water, a key element for sustaining life.
I think one of the very fascinating things from a biology point of view is, let's say Mars, for a period in its history, was similar enough to Earth that life could start to evolve. You could ask the question, how far did it make it? What happened historically on Mars? When did it start to, say, lose an atmosphere? When was it not able to sustain it anymore? And we could learn a lot about the processes on Earth that were successful by, I think, comparing it to how far, if at all, did life get on Mars and where did it fail?
But is it possible, as some ancient astronaut theorists believe, that Curiosity's mission may also reveal evidence that the mysterious beings known as the Anunnaki also once inhabited Mars?
Zecharia Sitchin theorized that the Anunnaki were coming from this planet Nibiru, and that Mars was like a way station for them to come from Nibiru to Mars and then to Earth. So you would think that if this is the case, that on Mars we would find some kind of traces of this Anunnaki civilization there. Are we going to find pyramids, giant dolmens, huge constructions on Mars, just like we have here on Earth? I suspect we will.
If an extraterrestrial presence on Mars can be found, might a global awareness of our own Anunnaki ancestry also be possible? According to author and Sumerian researcher Zecharia Sitchin, Nibiru, the home of the Anunnaki, is on an elliptical path that brings the planet into our orbit every 3,450 years. And the next visit is projected to be in the year 2900.
Zecharia wrote in the Book of the End of Days about some of the prophecy of the return. Next time Nibiru comes around, there should be another appearance of Anunnaki. Some of the Anunnaki may be really excited and happy to see what developed and what we have become. Some may be upset that we've gone too far. Maybe we've overstepped our bounds. They may pass judgment on us, and it could be good or it could be bad.
Life on Earth, seeded from Mars? Could we, in fact, be Martians? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes, and suggest that this seeding of Earth may even have been a directed effort orchestrated by human-like beings that existed on the Red Planet. And they claim these extraterrestrial ancestors can be found in the apocryphal texts of the Hebrew Bible, represented as the fallen angels.
We know from ancient legend of the books of Enoch that there was a group of angels who descended to earth in violation of divine law. They introduced to humanity ways, means, knowledge, which we would understand today as science and technology. These angels were in human form. They were called in Hebrew Ishim, which means men. They looked just like us.
The fallen angels were giants. They were at least 10 feet tall, very striking to look at, enormous eyes, and no wings.
For over 100 years, mythologists have been contemplating this idea that the fallen angels came from Mars to Earth. Even Dante described this in the Paradiso. He called this the 5th level of heaven. Is it possible that the fallen angels came to Earth from Mars?
Could we reinterpret the story of fallen angels as beings not from heaven, but from Mars? Based on examination of the astronauts living in the International Space Station, scientists have speculated on what physiological changes might be seen in future generations of humans born on Mars. And ancient astronaut theorists suggest the resemblance to the description of fallen angels may be uncanny.
One of the most amazing things about the human body is its ability to adapt. And if you look at astronauts who go into space, they actually grow about 2 or 3 inches. And when you have a human that's born on Mars, what's going to happen is the environment will change the structure of the human body. And what you're going to see in a few generations is humans that are taller and skinnier because the gravity on Mars is less than that of Earth.
If humans evolved long enough on the planet Mars, they could grow to be taller, they'd have the bigger heads, they'd have the spindly limbs, they might actually grow slightly larger eyes that were equipped to see better in the dark because you simply have less sunlight on Mars than you do on the Earth because it's farther away from the sun. They could also end up looking like representations of angels and various other godlike beings that we've read about in the Bible and other ancient documents.
These attributes to somebody from a low-gravity planet like Mars or being in space for a long time may well be the attributes that we see of the fallen angels being very tall and spindly and perhaps pale and with large eyes. Something that we might expect to be coming from another planet, like Mars. We had a race to the moon, and now it's a race to Mars, but now there's a lot more players in this game, right?
Yes.
I mean, we've got the
Right now,
Chinese.
you've got the 3 governments, you know, the Russians, the Chinese, and the Americans are going to get to the moon and Mars from a government standpoint. But I'm telling you, some of these rich billionaires are going to get there whether we want them to or not.
And they can probably do it a lot more cost-effective than these governments. Well, now that we're getting close to Mars, do you think we'll find some answers to a lot of our questions there?
Well, I'll tell you one answer that I can't wait to find. There's a photograph that you can still find it in the database from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and it shows like a little pool of water and an iceberg and a cloud all in the same picture. So I think we're certainly going to find water. And if we're going to find water and we know it gets 67 degrees in the summer,
we find life.
Absolutely, that's what we're going to find.
See, but here's the thing that, you know, to me, the life I am looking for looks like you and me. It is humanoid in form. If we find bacterial life, okay. And in my opinion, I'm going to say it, big whoop.
That's what most people, I think, will say, Giorgio. I agree. Let me tell you this, though. It's possible that Mars was the blue-green planet here, you know, 1 billion years ago instead of Earth. And when whatever happened to Mars, they migrated from there to here.
Migration from Mars to Earth? Some ancient astronaut theorists have proposed the incredible notion that the human race did, in fact, originate on Earth's closest neighboring planet. And it is their belief that all of humankind's journeys into space have been leading towards a return to this ancestral homeland. While it may sound like the premise of a sci-fi movie, some scientists have proposed that based on what we've learned about the Red Planet, this is not such a far-fetched notion after all.
Mars, at one time in its past, looked more like the Earth. It was a blue ocean world with a significant amount of water.
We know for a fact that billions of years ago, when we were first getting started here on Earth, Mars was a much more clement place, a more clement world in its own. We know that it had a thick atmosphere to shield and blanket the planet. And it would have had organic molecules, the building blocks of all life as we know it. So it stands to reason that maybe Mars had its own genesis, its own origin of life.
If Mars was once an Earth-like planet, could it have supported human life? Curiously, researchers have found a remarkable link between human physiology and conditions on Mars.
When astronauts actually go into space, their circadian rhythms, their body clocks change from 24-hour days to a 24.9-hour day, and that happens to be the exact rotational period of a single day on the planet Mars. Given the fact that our body clocks are tuned to the planet Mars, not to the planet Earth, that indicates to me that we actually came here from there.
Could we, in fact, be Martians? And might this be why we are so compelled to explore beyond Earth? In April 2020, NASA announced that 3 private companies, Blue Origin, Dynetics, and SpaceX, will compete to design America's new Human Landing System, or HLS. Its ultimate purpose: to send astronauts to Mars.
I think the next few years are going to be absolutely pivotal in Mars research. We are seeing mission after mission after mission going to Mars. And again, one might wonder why. Is it because when humanity expands out into the cosmos, we are going to have a planetary base, and Mars is a good place for that? Or is it because scientists know or suspect that there's something there?
1998. The Mars Global Surveyor snaps photos of what appears to be a monolith on Phobos, one of the 2 moons that orbit the planet Mars.
On the moon of Mars, Phobos, there's a very, very interesting obelisk or monolith there. They call it the Phobos Monolith. Buzz Aldrin, the second man to walk on the moon, they made a really big deal out of this and basically claimed that it was artificial. And when we got there and studied it, it would change everything in terms of how we looked at our history.
Is it really possible there is an obelisk on a moon of Mars? One that is not a natural occurrence, but was, in fact, put there by otherworldly beings? If so, might they have created similar structures on other planets and celestial bodies? Perhaps even Earth, as some researchers suggest.
Egypt has a number of obelisks in it, and those obelisks are 4,000 or 5,000 years old. And the obelisks in Ethiopia may be that old too. Obelisks, they're a piece of crystalline granite, and within the granite is quartz crystal. So obelisks themselves are, in a sense, a crystal tower with all of the properties that quartz crystal brings to technology. It's an antenna, and any antenna can receive a broadcast, and it can give a broadcast. And then we have these ancient obelisks that were at one point apparently all around the world. It would seem that there was a worldwide system similar to a wireless broadcasting system. These obelisks would broadcast power into the atmosphere, and remote locations around the world could pick up that power, much like a radio today or a television set, a satellite phone, or a computer. This seems to be the system that was set up by extraterrestrials thousands of years ago on this planet. And incredibly, they didn't just do it on planet Earth. So we may well find that when we go to Mars, we'll find obelisks there.
Is it really possible, as some researchers believe, that monoliths on Earth have a cosmic connection to the obelisk on Phobos? And that at one time, many of the monolithic sites seen around the world were part of an advanced system that would help to receive and distribute energy?
You have to realize that there is more than just the stones involved. There's a kind of energy field around them, and it works through the stones by way of their placement when put in a circle or in rows or standing singly. They would ground celestial energy, transmit it and download it into the local landscape. It was meant to be a kind of passive, continuous input to the Earth from the celestial and galactic realms.
Places like Easter Island, or remote jungles, or a remote mountain area, as long as you're able to dial in to that energy pattern and to the energy being put out, you would have power.
These sort of tall standing stones all around the world could easily have been part of some kind of energy grid around the planet, connecting up all these ancient cultures, connecting up the energies of the Earth, all in different parts of the world, somehow harnessing cosmic energy with Earth energy and used for various different purposes we're only just starting to understand today.
This sort of megalithic landscape was designed to create higher nodes of awareness in multiple places. Their placement was specific to take advantage of implicit energy aspects and gradients in the landscape.
The location of the stones is very important. For example, Stonehenge, we now know that those stones were positioned above the underground water flows. The water moves, generates energy, the stones receive the energy and slowly release it. The ancient people, they would be around those monoliths, keeping their hands on the stones, receiving the energy.
And if the stones were arranged in a pattern, it would create a kind of geometry of consciousness that would have uplifting effects on people who were in proximity to them.
Throughout the world, whether they are stone spheres in Bosnia or megalithic monuments in Avebury, what we're seeing is that our ancestors are saying that these stones are able to hold energy, a soul, a spirit of our ancestors, of the gods. And so what we see throughout the world is these monoliths, because throughout the world we are trying to establish this link between us, mankind, and the world of the gods.
Monoliths, interconnected by design, tapping into the energy of the Earth and serving as a beacon to link with celestial beings. Is it really possible that ancient monoliths hold an advanced, perhaps extraterrestrial power we have yet to realize? And if so, just what will happen when we unlock the mystery of the monoliths?